Hola clase, ¿cómo están? Espero que bien. Pues en este video voy a hablar sobre la semana 3, la tercera semana, y algunas cosas que debes de estudiar. Em, Hay cosas que tienen que hacer. Aquí puedes ver que tienes un Flipgrid, un Playposit, y conversaciones con los compañeros a través de Zoom. Y también voy a poner una cosa más que va a ser un discussion board. So that's not up there yet, but it will be later. Y también, miércoles, on Wednesday, I'll post your quiz. So you'll have just one quiz this week. Muy bien. Entonces, quería hablar sobre el subjuntivo, materia nueva que tienen esta semana. So I'll move that up here. Y I'll move that up here. También partes del cuerpo. So those are the two things you should be studying this week. Partes del cuerpo, so vocabulario de este capítulo. Y también el subjuntivo, a brief introduction to the subjunctive, focusing on the conjugation of verbs. So you see here, week 3 overview. Dice la misma cosa, pero en inglés, ¿no? Cosas que debes de estar haciendo. Y aquí está la información o el contenido. So tenemos subjunctive overview, requests, recommendations, y también desires and wants. So this is just essentially a screenshot from your textbook so you can see a couple things that I wanted to highlight on the subjunctive. So es un modo en español, so it's a mode in Spanish, que se usa para expresar incertidumbre, which is uncertainty, y se usa mucho para expresar deseos, recomendaciones para otras personas, cosas y situaciones que son fuera del control tuyo. Entonces, algunos ejemplos que ves, so dice, yo quiero que, we'll just look at the examples first, nosotros vayamos al hospital, que tú te quedes ahí con él hoy, que el médico nos diga cómo está mi primo. So, yo quiero que, and then otra persona. Entonces, esos son los requisitos para usar el subjuntivo. So, quiero que is in the present indicative. Vayamos is in the present subjunctive. So, I want that we go or that all of us go to the hospital. So, it's a want that I have. Is it going to happen? That's, who knows, right? But it's a want that I have about another group of people or about another person or about a thing. So that's when we're going to start out using the subjunctive with yo quiero que, and then the subjunctive. And then later in this chapter, we're going to talk about yo recomiendo que, which is up here, or you could say el doctor me recomiendo que duerma, right? Then you would use the subjunctive. Bien, so los requisitos, to use the subjunctive, you need to have one person wanting something else for another group of people or a thing. So when we start out with the subjunctive, you're always going to see this preposition, que. Bien? Okay, so how to put verbs in the subjunctive. This should look really familiar. It says present subjunctive forms are the same as polite or formal commands, which is what we were doing last week. Except you can see the difference here. Instead of just hable y hablen, you can see you actually conjugate the verb. So es, hemos, en. ER, IR verbs are the same. So they all end in a. As, amos, ais, y an. Bien. As you remember with formal commands, there are a lot of irregulars. So any verb that has an irregular yo is going to have an irregular conjugation in the subjunctive. Bien? So again, conocer is an ER verb. The ending switches to A, so it's conozca, conozcas, conozca. Construyo, right? The ending changes, construya. Diga, haga, so you can see all the ones with irregular yos. As we scroll down, you're going to see these you just have to memorize. Dad is de. It has an accent on it when it's that because it looks very similar to the preposition, de. So with the accent, you know that it's going to be the verb. And the same with the verb estar. So the accent's going to make you realize that it's in the subjunctive. These you just have to memorize, like I said. And then down here you see a little bit more verbs with stem changes. So notice AR, ER verbs, right? They all stay the same as they would in the indicative. So the stem change happens in all the tenses except the nosotros. But the difference down here is with the IR verb. So in the subjunctive, the stem change actually carries over through the whole verb. So the nosotros doesn't switch back, right? It's going to stay with the same stem change. So piva is going to still be pivamos, no? And then when you have these verbs, you can see there is a change that happens, right? But it's a little different than the other ones, right? So instead of an I, it's just an I. Instead of a U, it's just a U. Yeah. Okay, and then also, it's not on here, but there are also car, gar, and zar verbs. If you remember, they're irregular in the formal commands. They're also going to be irregular in the subjunctive, but we will look at those a little bit later. Entonces, I'm going to skip ahead just to practice a little bit. So, quiero un novio. This is a document that you have, and it's practice with quiero something, que, and then the subjunctive. So, quiero un novio or una novia que esté guapo, que sepa bailar, que viva en Hawaii, que tenga casa, que tenga coche. So whatever you want to say, your wants and desires are, you'd use the subjunctive here. And you're going to notice that you keep on using the same verbs like esté, sepa, viva. The verb ser would be sea, inteligente. So ser, estar, tener, you use mucho, ¿no? Se usa mucho. And then the second example is deseo un trabajo que, right? You can flip the order, deseo un trabajo que. And then you're going to see the subjunctive, que me pague bien, que esté divertido, que whatever you would like to have your job to be, you would use a subjunctive. Muy bien. Entonces, that's your brief introduction onto the subjunctive. Espero que estén bien. I hope you guys are all doing well. Y nos vemos pronto.